All right, get ready for this, because it's a wild one. How does a small, really heartfelt movie about a guy making Cuban sandwiches in a food truck, how does that lead to a tech revolution that powers the biggest movies on the planet? It sounds kind of nuts, right? But it's the true story of how one director's personal passion project completely flipped the script on how Hollywood makes blockbusters.
In this quote right here, this is the key to the whole thing. It just nails the central idea. The movie Chef wasn't just a film for director Jon Favreau, it was a film about him. Seriously, the character's journey from this big-time creatively stifled chef to a passionate food truck owner, well, that was a perfect mirror for his own career.
So, to really get why he felt the need to go back to basics, we first have to take a look at the world he was trying to get away from. And trust me, it was a massive, high-pressure world.
That's right, we're talking about Jon Favreau. This wasn't just some random blockbuster director. He was the guy who kicked off the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man. He was literally at the top of the Hollywood mountain, building what would become, the biggest franchise, maybe ever.
But what's so wild is that this greatest decision almost didn't happen. It was a huge fight. The studio was dead set against casting Robert Downey Jr. Some execs literally said, "Under no circumstances are we prepared to hire him." But Favreau, he saw something, and he fought for his guy. It just goes to show he's always been a filmmaker who trusts his gut, even when the pressure is immense.
And get this, even on a movie that massive, his indie roots were totally showing. People on the set of Iron Man said the whole process felt chaotic, almost like they were making a small independent film. So that tells you that even when he was building a cinematic universe, Favreau's happy place was that hands-on, let's figure it out style of creating. But as that universe he helped build got bigger and bigger and bigger, that indie spirit got a lot harder to hold on to. The constant pressure of the blockbuster machine started to take its toll, leading to a real creative crisis and, well, the need for a pretty drastic change of scenery.
In this timeline, wow. It shows you everything you need to know. You see this string of huge effects-heavy movies. Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Cowboys and Aliens, and then, bam! He just completely steps off the blockbuster treadmill and onto a much, much smaller path with Chef.
That's the budget for Chef. $11 million. Now, just to put that in perspective for you, Iron Man 2 cost around $200 million. So this wasn't just a smaller project, no way. This was a deliberate, dramatic leap back to a totally different way of making movies.
And he actually wrote the script in just 2 weeks. He just felt this overwhelming need to get back to basics, to connect with the fundamentals of just creating something. He wanted to make something small, personal, hands-on, all about his love for food. So this wasn't just a movie for him, it was a creative lifeline.
And as he started making this little film, something really incredible started to happen. The story he was telling on camera, it became a perfect reflection of the creative journey he was on in his own life. I mean, just look at this plot. An A-list creator who feels totally suffocated by his boss, who just wants him to play the hits over and over again. Sound familiar for a director in the studio system? He quits in this fiery moment, hits rock bottom, and then has to rebuild from nothing, finding joy not in fame, but in the simple act of making something real. And yeah, it wasn't just a clever metaphor. The film is widely considered semi-autobiographical. Favreau was pouring his own frustrations, his own life as a busy dad, and his own choice to walk away from blockbusters directly into the character of Carl Casper. And here's the really cool part. The way he made Chef mirrored its message. Instead of a rigid script, he had the actors improvise a ton of their dialogue just to capture that spontaneous, collaborative energy of a real kitchen. This was the creative freedom he'd been missing so badly.
So, after going back to basics, after rediscovering that creative fire, what did Favreau do? He took all the lessons he learned in that tiny food truck and applied them to the biggest stage you can imagine. And in doing so, he changed blockbuster filmmaking forever.
His next big thing was the 2016 version of The Jungle Book. And just look at the challenge here. Everything you see, the jungle, the waterfall, the animals, it's all digital. The only real thing in this shot is the actor playing Mowgli. This was a massive technical and creative headache. And wouldn't you know it, that old frustration came roaring back. With the old way of doing things, with green screens, your actors are basically performing in a big, empty green room. All the important creative decisions about how the world looks and feels, that all gets pushed off until months later in post-production.
It's slow, it's disconnected. It's the exact opposite of that live collaborative vibe he had just rediscovered on Chef.
So how'd he fix it? Well, he helped pioneer a new technology that was basically a super high-tech version of his creative kitchen. A space where all the creative decisions could happen right there, in the moment. It's called the volume.
And the difference, as you can see, is just staggering. With a green screen, the actors have to imagine everything. The world gets added way later. But with the volume, the digital world is projected onto these huge LED screens all around the actors, in real time. So the light hitting their faces isn't from some big studio light, it's from the actual digital sun that's on the screen behind them. It's immersive, it's immediate, and it brings all that creativity back onto the set where it belongs.
And like Favreau himself says, it completely changes the game for the performers. They aren't just pretending anymore. They can actually see the world they're in. They can react to it. They can feel the light on their skin. It makes the digital world feel, well, real.
And this right here, this is the whole point. This technology brought back what he found again on Chef, those happy accidents, that spontaneous, in-the-moment magic that happens when creative people are all in the same room, or, a food truck, bouncing ideas off each other. He figured out how to bring the soul of an indie film to the most advanced film sets in the world.
Okay, so let's tie all these threads together and see how this amazing journey comes full circle. It really all comes back to this one simple question. How could something so small end up having such a gigantic impact?
Well, here's the recipe. First, Favreau got burned out in the rigid blockbuster system, so he went back to basics with Chef to find his passion again. On that little movie, he rediscovered the power of collaboration, of those happy accidents. And then, and this is the genius move, he didn't just stay in that small world. He used those indie lessons to build a brand new technology that solved the very problems that burned him out to begin with.
In the end, it's just this incredible lesson about creativity. To innovate on the biggest scale you can possibly imagine, to build entire galaxies for shows like The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau first had to step away from it all and remember the simple joy of making something with his own hands in a tiny kitchen on wheels.